Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, here at DevOps Enterprise Summit 2017 in London. And we're here to speak with another speaker from DevOps Enterprise Summit. He's actually somewhat, Topol, you probably appeared at all of them, haven't you?
I think so, yes.
Yep. As well as RSA and other events. One of my favorite presenters that I like to listen to is Dr. Topol, Capital One.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Topo, if you could share with our audience, you just presented here today. What did you present on?
So my presentation was our two things. One is how we have transformed over the last 5 years from a pure waterfall and classic way of doing things to agile and DevOps and continuous delivery. And then I presented about what we are focusing on nowadays, which is around how do I measure the pipeline, how do I actually know that I'm doing the right DevOps, and not only that, the challenges that we face in measuring our pipeline and what are the measurements that one needs to have to actually prove that we are doing the DevOps the right way.
Yep. And of course, Topol, this is, as we were talking off camera, I've probably done, I don't know how many interviews already today, and a lot of times I have asked the guest, well, what does success look like? How do you know that this is successful? And I was frankly a little surprised that I didn't hear more hard metrics, that I didn't really, I didn't get a clear answer. I then interviewed, just a little bit before you, I interviewed Dr. Nicole Forsgren and Nigel Kirsten from Puppet about the DevOps, State of DevOps report. And of course, Nicole has some very solid metrics that she uses to measure success. And actually, I think Dora
we did Dora
has
too.
been in engagement with Capital One.
Yep.
So that probably helped. But why don't you, if you could share with our audience a little, how do you measure success for DevOps?
Yes, it's a challenge, and it's a hard problem, and it's a challenge for us too. I'm not saying that we figured it out. We actually have not yet, but we are trying to. Now, I'll talk about the challenges first. The challenges in this space is tools, I would say. There are a boatload of tools that are used and integrated together and put together to actually create the pipeline. And they range from your PMO tools to your source control to your build automation, test automation, your infrastructure automation, your deployment tools, and then your monitoring tool. And by the way, you can extend up to monitoring your customer satisfaction, right? Now, we can all say and come up with a set of metrics that says, okay, just tell me how many times you deploy to production, right? But that's one part of it, a very small part of it. Well, I'm deploying 10 times a day into production, but is it adding any value? Are the customers happy? Did the customers complain about your 10 deployments? What is the quality of the thing that you deploy? How many times you are building it, right? How many times you're running your test cases, and what is the coverage of those test cases? How many times people are getting stuck because of inefficient people and process? How many times you are actually breaking the build? What is your branching strategy? How many times some stories come into the pipeline and they go back because the stories are not well formulated? How long does it take from ideation all the way to your application in customer's hand? So these are various kind of metrics that one can look at, but the inherent challenge is that we need to create some correlation between all these events and tools and the data that flow through all your pipeline. And it's very hard to actually correlate the data.
Yes.
And that is because each and every tool have enough data within themselves that only is concerned about their subject area, not the next part or the previous part of it. So that's the challenge we are trying to fix, and we are trying to collect the data and correlate and see how it looks like. But that is, I think, the number one challenge that everybody is facing and will face unless you have one single tool for your whole delivery pipeline, and I think that is not the case, and I don't think that is going to be the case either in the near future.
Not anytime soon.
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
But everybody agrees that yes, I need to measure the cycle time, I need to measure the code coverage, I need to measure the test coverage, I need to measure my security scan results, I need to measure the frequency of deployment to production. But again, if you take those numbers alone, it doesn't tell you the whole picture.
And I think you're 100% correct, but I think one of the problems why is because there are some things we need to measure. Like the tool part of most of it is easy to measure. But when we start measuring the cultural aspects, the people, I had one gentleman here tell you, said, well, our employees are much happier. How do you know they're happier?
Right.
Have you?
Right.
Well, they tell us, they're writing us more emails that they're happy.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, every organization has their own internal surveys, employee satisfaction, and we also have that. And, that number is changing, right? But that's, once a quarter or once every year kind of thing. But how do we continuously make sure that developers are happy, they are not burnt out, they are collaborating, they are actually talking about your organizations to other developers so that they can get more engineers in, all these different things are very challenging.
Sure
how do you gather that?
It is very challenging. And then I think the other thing, Topo, and maybe there's a business here. Once you're able to measure all these things, I'm not aware of one tool that could pull all of these things together into sort of a success dashboard or whatever you want to call it.
Right. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. I didn't have this thought in my mind. But what you are trying to do is, I don't know if you know, we open sourced one DevOps dashboard tool called Hygia
I've heard of it,
couple of years ago, and it is the whole idea was at that time is create a single view of your tool's output. So in a single dashboard, I can see the stories you are working on, the code comments, the build, the deployment, the code analysis, the test results itself. Now, what you have realized is that, and it is tool agnostic. So it doesn't matter which tool you use, you get the same view, provided you have the tools plug-in in place, right? The whole idea was to have that. Now, what you have come to realization is that now I have a bunch of data, now I can actually correlate. It happens to be from the tools. So, from this whole equation, I'll leave out the developer satisfaction out, but at least once it is in the hand of developers, I can measure all these things through the pipeline and come up with the numbers. And that is what we are working on these days.
Excellent. So we'll be on the lookout. Are you going to, I don't want to put you on the spot, but will it be open source?
It is actually...
It's already open source.
It's already open source. It's more features.
You can't put that back in the bottle.
Right. Yeah, the genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah, that's it. Most people have tried.
Yeah.
So Topo, that's great. Really good stuff. What else is happening at Capital One?
So right now, one of our main focus is after the DORA, assessment and our own tool assessment, looking at the numbers, we figured that the main reason that developers cannot push code to production that frequently is because of some inefficient processes. And that comes with any of the financial institutions, regulations, compliance requirements. So our focus is to automate those, right? Especially separation of duties kind of concern. So we have actually come up with a set of 29 requirements that a pipeline ought to have so that developers can code commit in my GitHub and things show up in production if all the checks and balances go through. They don't need separation of duties kind of implementation because it's all baked into the pipeline. So that's our focus, is to get more and more teams onto this certified pipeline paradigm so that auditors are happy, they can see what's going on. The security guys are happy, they can see what's going on. The QA guys are happy, they can look at the test results and the traceability and all that. The developers are happy, they can actually deploy their code. In fact, nobody's deploying the code to production, it's the system that is deploying to production.
So kind of removing, that's great stuff. I mean, in so many ways, Capital One in this area, as well as other areas, but really within DevOps has kind of led the way here. It seems like they continue to.
Yeah.
Well, Topol, thank you so much for presenting at DevOps Enterprise Summit. I assume we'll see you in San Francisco as well.
Absolutely, I'll be there.
All right.
Thank you very much.
My friend. Be well. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com and DevOps TV.